Hey, how's it going, guys? My wife just came back from Japan visiting family. She brought back her old stuffed animal. I don't know why this thing brings me so much joy, but I think I'm gonna call him Doopy. Look at that. It's a coin thing too. You could put like coins in. Okay, that's wrong. But you could put coins in here and store it. Yeah. You're amazing, Doopy. You're my new co-pilot. There, you can. Sorry for sticking that in your zipper butt. Anyway, this is part two. The part one, I sat down with Nogrim, who is the creator of Frost. And then this one is a live interview with Redawt, who is the current curator, and he's the one who has patched it to where it is. And he is the one who has helped get it to the state that it is now. And not only that, he has plans to do the same thing for Starfield. So I'm really excited that we have a confirmed mod author who's going to move forward and bring something that I think is going to be really needed to Starfield. So let's get into it. Good starting question I like is what games are you playing right now? What is occupying your time before Starfield?
Currently Project Zomboid and Deep Rock Galactic.
Yeah, I've been wanting to play Zomboid because I played State of Decay 2, and I like those kind of zombie survival games. How is it though? Because sometimes getting past the graphics, you know what I mean? Like, it's not bad graphics, they're just old school.
Yeah, it doesn't look that pretty, but it's a lot of fun. It's very challenging. It has very many small mechanics, and even just getting around is dangerous because there are zombies everywhere. So it's a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite survival games.
So do you have a team and a base, or is it just you?
I play alone, but sometimes I play with my sister and her boyfriend. So if I have the time, I don't have that much time currently to play video games because I have a lot of stuff to do for university. I hope that clears up until Starfield gets released.
I feel yeah. As I said, we're some settlements we're trying to push out as quickly as possible, because Starfield's coming. So busy with that too. Not a lot of time for gaming when you start trying to work on gaming.
Yeah, exactly. It's like making games or modding games becomes like playing the game. So sometimes you don't play games much at all because you're busy modifying games. I've heard many other mod authors talk about this illness among mod authors that they don't actually play the game anymore, but they are busy making mods for it.
Yeah, the YouTuber Lone Vault Wanderer. He used to work for Bethesda, and so he
Oh,
left
okay.
because he wanted to play Starfield without really being involved in it, because you don't want to ruin it. He doesn't want to ruin it because it's probably going to be the biggest game in a long time. So he's just like, you know what? Maybe it's time to leave. I can go another job so I can enjoy Starfield. I was like, that's a true fan. How did you get into taking over the project from Nogrim?
Around 2019, I've played Frost after I got bored with Fallout 4. Even with mods, there were a lot of things that I didn't like about it, and I've played the main quest and all the other quests, and I was a bit disappointed. I expected there to be more quests and more content, but Bethesda clearly went for in the late game you have to constantly farm legendary items, and that's the half of the game. So I played Frost and I was like, hey, that's very different, very interesting because the settings changed and the gameplay is much more challenging. And I've noticed that Nuka World wasn't really implemented in Frost. So I started with that. Yeah, that was a long journey because I've had to suddenly transform an entire DLC area to fit into a complete game overhaul. And that took a lot of time, and I've learned a lot of things. And that was basically the first mod I was working on that I was actually planning to release.
I saw you have patches on your Nexus page, and you're studying to be computer science, right? So this is kind of in your wheelhouse. Did you start doing this to kind of get an idea of how this process works, or were you having a plan for it later on, as in modding for the next game or making your own mod?
So in 2017, I finished school, and then I've worked for 4 weeks to get a bit of money to buy a new PC because I wanted to play Fallout 4. And at the same time, I've also started studying computer science. And at some point, after getting used to the life as a student in a university, I was like, oh, I want to apply some of my knowledge or get a new hobby. So that was another motivation. I got into modding as well. And recently, this also got me a job, not in a game company or something, but I've applied for a job. I've also told them that I'm making video game mods, and in the end, that's why they actually gave me the job, which was a bit funny.
That's kind of how it is though, because people want to hire when they can see someone who produces something, goes out of their way, who's not being paid to do something that's really, quite impressive. So if it's kind of like a way of showing a resume, I did this, I had to accomplish this. There's no shortcut to this. So people know like, oh, he will actually do this. He's not just out of a university.
Yeah, exactly. And in the actual job interview, it was quite funny because they've asked me to show something from my mods, and at first I was like, how exactly should I do that? It was a bit of a weird situation because you have like some guy from a company and suddenly he wants to see something about a game that they don't even know much about. So
And not only that,
yeah,
a game like Frost.
yeah, I was a bit like, oh, okay, should I really show them that stuff? And I've prepared a few video clips for the interview and showed them that, and yeah, they've liked what they saw, I guess. The interview took way longer because they wanted to see a bit more. Yeah, an hour after the interview, they called me back and said, yeah, we want you. We will not bother with any other people who applied for the job, which was also quite funny.
But they're like, you're going to have to download that game mod on all our computers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, it was just very strange that suddenly something like making mods for a video game actually helped me to get a job.
Well, that's good information. I mean, people out there, a lot of people who are in modding, hope to be one day in a computer company, not necessarily gaming because it is a bit cutthroat, but it's a good way. Just to have something there that you've done and have your name on, and there's millions of people already looking at it. It's good advertisement.
Yeah, I can recommend any mod author to actually mention that they are mod author in interviews or if they apply for a job. I think it's a good thing, and you don't have to hide this information from the company.
I mean, unless you're doing anime girls running around, you may want to.
Yeah, I mean, the mod authors at Lovers Lab should probably mention what kind of mods they are making.
I developed schlongs of Skyrim. Oh, okay. What's that? Oh, you know what? Never mind. So are you going to carry on this tradition and start modding for Starfield? Do you have any ideas for that?
Well, I've been mentioning this for a month already at the Frost Discord server that I have plans for overhauling Starfield in a similar fashion as Frost, which will be quite a challenge because Starfield is so much bigger than Fallout 4 and Skyrim. So making an overhaul mod for it will be quite challenging.
But you do have the benefit, you can pick a planet if you really wanted to have that survival aspect of it. One of the main things you're trying to do is leave that planet. And then you can set up probably a lot of survival. Like you can change whatever planet you want. It could be a planet of raiders. You could probably get away with it and not affect anybody else's mod because you could just pick a planet, even a solar system,
Yeah, well, 1,000 planets to pick, right? Yeah, that will be. I mean, there will probably still be mod conflicts because I think some mod authors will choose very interesting planets and want to do stuff with that. So will be quite interesting how mod conflicts will be in Starfield with such a large scale. Like what kind of mod conflicts will there be? What kind of new mod conflicts will there be? Because like some planets are randomly generated. I don't know that. It sounds like a big challenge for mod authors to keep things as clean as possible, even if you have 1,000 planets to choose.
It's got to be kind of like how we have interiors and zones. So if you went to Sanctuary, you're just kind of messing in Sanctuary. So maybe a planet or zone in a planet is like that. I am curious to see how the CK does handle that. But another thing is you can set up your own planetary system if you wanted to make sure you avoided anybody else's mod. You can just go screw it. And, you know, if this is all creation replicable, you can reproduce these planets. You can just make your own little system, and then you're not in really any conflict unless it's like a UI or, you know, sliders in the game.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of potential with making new planets with new texture and new textures, new models, new challenges, and maybe some people might start create very crazy planets. Like we will see what people will come up with that, and maybe there will even be mods that overhaul a lot of planets at once. There's a lot of potential with the planets alone. But I'm also interested to see how the Creation Kit actually handles editing planets, because they are apparently like randomly generated to a degree. So I don't know. I'm very curious to see how we can change and edit planets.
Yeah, and just generate them, because obviously they had to do a lot of procedural generation. So there's got to be a tool in there, I'm hoping, that you can procedurally generate your own set planets. Yeah, I'm excited. Speaking of the CK, what improvements to the new creation kit would you like to see?
Less crashes.
Agreed.
The creation kit is quite unstable. I mean, there's this mod that fixes some of the crashes and makes it more stable, but even with that, the creation kit is quite slow. It crashes a lot, and especially the UI is sometimes not that good or pretty slow. And I hope that they make it more stable and make it faster as well, because if you try to edit an NPC in the creation kit, and click around on the different tabs, like the appearance of the NPC or which stats it uses, it always takes a few seconds for the creation kit to load the stuff, and that's very annoying.
Yeah, it's very inconsistent too, how it wants to load these.
Yeah, and I think there should be some other improvements, like making it easier to search for certain things. I think that was also a feature from the Creation Kit Fixes mod. It added a few new search fields, which made it easier to search for certain things in the game. And I hope that Bethesda will actually do that as well, so that people can find stuff much, much faster. And I also hope that they add more possibilities for mod authors generally, because the Creation Kit had some, or modding in general, there were certain dead ends or things where Bethesda just didn't think things through properly. One particular thing I would like to see is the option to add more keywords to objects, any kind of object. Because especially with weathers, because in the Fahaba DLC they've added some item in Fallout 4 that made you stronger if the current weather is foggy.
Right.
So and what they did behind the scenes is to check for the particular weather or that item, and that is a very bad practice. So especially because the item stopped working if someone installed a weather mod, and with something like a keyword system, where you can attach keywords to weather types, it might make such things a lot easier because you don't have to check for the weather, but you can check for a keyword that is used by the current weather, like a fork keyword. As I think for PanPC, the big AI overhaul, this mod was only possible to make it because Bethesda actually added more keyword options when they upgraded the engine from Skyrim to Fallout 4. So it's just such a simple thing, but to add more keywords to more kind of objects, but it makes things much, much easier for mod authors.
Got it. So that you have to would individually let each condition be for every new knife you added instead of it just saying, hey, this is a knife. And so you can create a condition that says, look for anything that's a knife, and then you get +5 damage.
Exactly. And I hope that Bethesda will actually add more keywords properly for the weapons and armors and other stuff so that we mod authors don't have to do that, to create some framework or something that just has the job to add more keywords.
I think they've had because they updated it, right? And so, I mean, that would be so weird of them to revert, especially with so many items and space, so many things going on. It'd be really silly of them not to have a catch-all keyword like that because they have so many perks too,
I guess we will see. Sometimes Bethesda doesn't do things to make their life or our life a bit simpler. So I don't know. There will certainly be things certain dead ends or problems that we as mod authors have to work around, even if it's just a simple thing like some keywords for condition checks.
What elements for survival would you like to see already implemented in Starfield to make going into like a Frost version type mod easier, or that would be creative?
Yeah, well, that's a bit of a challenge because how does survival look like in a game that's about space travel? Because is food or water actually a problem in such a setting? So it's a bit interesting to think about how survival would actually be in such a game. Because if people think about survival games, one thing that always comes to mind is, oh yes, food and water or something like that.
Yeah.
In a setting such as Starfield, that will probably not work that well. And I think that's also one of the reasons why Bethesda said that they won't add a survival mode at the launch of the game.
That's
and
correct.
I'm not even sure if they will add a survival mode at all. Probably offer it as some Creation Club content and you have to pay for it.
For a half-baked version where they just make sure you have to have like 6,000 calories, everything's a bullet sponge, and you need to sleep every 8 hours, otherwise you can't run.
Yeah, but what I want to actually see in as survival elements in Starfield would be environmental hazards. For one, that's one interesting thing, because I think survival games are much more interesting if the environment can be very hostile to you. And I think they already, by default, Starfield will have stuff like radiation and some dangers on the planets, like not a breathable atmosphere and some, I don't know, a weird magnetic field on the planet, something like that. So there's a bit of potential here, and if they add such a system, we can just make it more dangerous or add more features to it. Like imagine you're on a planet and there's a storm in the distance that comes closer, and you don't want to be in that storm because there will be lightning strikes everywhere and you have to hurry to finish whatever you are doing. Like you are mining on a planet, you are mining some resources, and you don't have that much time to be on the planet because there will be like a giant storm coming towards you and you have to go back quickly and get off the planet because you don't want to fly your spaceship through the storm. Something like that, like more environmental hazards or meteor showers. Like you're on a planet, there's a chance that meteors nearby will rain down and make some small explosion, something like that. I think that has a lot of potential for, like, as a survival element in Starfield. Make planets, make space travel really dangerous, because space travel or other planets are very hostile. They're very dangerous to be on, even in real life. Like, you need a lot of equipment to even stay alive there. Yeah, I want this to be in Starfield as well. Space travel is very dangerous. Being on other planets is very dangerous. And I hope that Bethesda and mod authors will be able to add this into Starfield.
You know, one of the few things that I think No Man's Sky does really well is giving you that atmosphere around your ship as you're coming in to land in a storm. Can't see the bottom. Everything is like water on your windshield as you're trying to come down to a planet, and then you land and it's chaos outside. They got the environment pretty well there, and I would like to see that. The one thing I notice is that they have the resistances to like toxicity, heat, and cold, opposed to like shields like No Man's Sky, which I think is probably a better way, because I don't want to be recharging every shield and finding resources and have this kind of like super mini game loop that there is no way out of. There's a balance of how hard, how intense you want to make it, but also at the same time have you want to go deeper in. It's okay to deal with these hardships because it makes it interesting and it makes you want to explore more, opposed to feeling like you're never going to be able to get past the environment or get past the difficulty of survival. I wanted to see some sort of soft death, like Shadow of Mordor, where you die, but you don't really die. You come back, and then the person who killed you became stronger, and now you have to worry about him and try to get revenge. You know, something like that. Something that doesn't mean like once you die, that's it, you just reload.
Well, Bethesda will probably not add something like that, because they design their games around the concept that the player doesn't die that much often. But I think as an actual survival mechanic, that you don't actually die, but, I don't know, get rescued somehow and respawn somewhere and have to get revenge to the person or robot or something that killed you, is a pretty neat idea. I would also like to see that with like space fights, not only with like ego shooter aspect of Starfield, but also in space fights, that if you are losing battle in space and didn't manage to use your gravity drive to escape, that you maybe crash land on a nearby planet and have to call for help. Bethesda already said that they won't add such a feature, but maybe mod authors can do that.
Yeah, we were talking about that in the Discord, about it would be kind of cool. You either eject, you know, and you have to get one of those ships you stole, that pilot come pick you up, or you can have the choice, maybe as your ship's going down, you can say you can make an emergency landing, you have your cutscene, and now you have to kind of get resources to fix this.
I also think that a proper fuel mechanic should play a part in as a survival element in Starfield, because I think Bethesda already added a fuel mechanic, but as far as I understand, it's just an indicator for how great the distance for the gravity drive can be, and it's not an actual fuel mechanic in that sense. I want to see a proper fuel mechanic, that you have to add new fuel to your spaceship from time to time, or that you can even like stranding in space because you ran out of fuel and now you have to call for help or something like that. That would also be pretty nice.
Yeah, like an Elite and Dangerous type of thing, where you have to call someone, you know, obviously not a real person because it's not multiplayer, but call someone and get a tow. And I think as far as having something to resource, maybe you mine fuel, whatever materials you need, or you can buy it, but it's kind of expensive. So maybe having your mining operation pay for some of that. Just reasons to have a base, essentially, and reasons to spend your money.
Currently, I have the feeling that the Outpost system will just be like a money and resource generator and nothing else. Similar to how settlements worked in Fallout 4. So they've said, Todd Howard said in an interview that the Outpost system will be more complex and more interesting, but from what we've seen in the Starfield reveal, it looks exactly like the settlement system from Fallout 4. So
Except some more animations.
yes, I mean, if you pause the video from the Starfield reveal and take a look at what you can see in menu for the outposts, you will see like you have a population and your outpost is generating some resources and it requires energy, and that's basically it. That reminds me very much about how settlements worked in Fallout 4. So, and I don't think that they will be much more complex than that.
Well, the one improvement I saw that I do like is the screen where you can, take your guys and put them at another outpost or on another ship kind of thing. So it's a little more manageable. So I saw mod potential in that where someone else could come in and use that same screen to add variations.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Especially Todd Howard said that the Creation Kit 2 and generally Starfield will be modder's paradise, to quote him directly. And I hope that they will actually add a proper feature for adding new UI elements, because Fallout 4 and the Creation Kit doesn't have that. And creating UI elements was pretty difficult for a lot of mod authors. So I hope that they will add some feature to the Creation Kit that allows us mod authors to add new UIs to make it more dynamic and make it easier for mod users to understand how complex mods actually work. Because that's a lot easier if you have a custom UI. And I think especially with large mods or more complex mods, mod users often get lost with what they can do with that mod. And I mean, many mods now have some kind of wiki or something like that, but that isn't an ideal solution. The ideal solution would be to actually inform the player more about the new elements of a mod in-game directly and add more specially crafted user interfaces for exactly that reason.
Right, like kind of the MCM for Skyrim, where you can go in, have the sliders, have the explanations. Like a really well done mod will tell you everything that you can do and give you the toggle ability.
Not only for the pause menu, but actually in-game, like that we have a native option to add new UI elements to the HUD or to the inventory or something like that. That would also be pretty nice, but I have the suspicion that Bethesda won't do that. Especially when I saw the perk screen, I was like, oh, I don't think that they've added a good option for us mod authors to add new perk trees or something like that. They didn't do that in Skyrim. They didn't do that in Fallout 4. And yeah, the modding community always relied on some very experienced mod author to fix such a simple problem, which was a bit annoying. So we will see if maybe Starfield has more options for us mod authors.
Yeah, modification of perks may be a little longer down the line of mods. For this is a sci-fi, a little definitely different than a Bethesda game, so we don't really know what kind of atmosphere we're looking at. As far as like Star Trek versus Aliens, they have two different feels to them. What kind of atmosphere would you like to see in Starfield?
Well, I think we will have multiple kinds of atmospheres, because you have like those desolated planets. They will have an entirely different atmosphere than like planet with a lot of life and creatures. There's a great difference between standing on an empty planet with no life around and a planet that has a lot of life and plants and creatures running around you. I think that those planets which have more life will be actually a bit like Skyrim, where you have the trees and some animals running around, and here and there you can find some bandits, or in this case of Starfield, space pirates, and instead of magical creatures like in Skyrim, you will encounter some very strange aliens or something like that. Generally, about the setting, from what I could see in all the reveal videos, it had a bit of a it was a bit like Star Wars in a certain sense, because Star Wars has those multiple atmospheres and elements. Like Star Wars has a bit of Wild West thing going on in certain planets, and sometimes it's more of a cyberpunk setting in Star Wars. And from what we could see in the Starfield videos, I think Bethesda is going a similar route here. Like, there will be some cities that have a lot of neon signs and modified humans, which is a very cyberpunk-like, but they've also shown like a bit more Wild West locations, which was also pretty interesting. So I think it will be very diverse when it comes to the atmosphere.
And it's funny, you know, Nogrim, he gave me his responses. He said kind of the same thing. He liked how the interiors looked worn, like the paint chipped. He said it felt like the Millennium Falcon, you know, where you're flying this kind of pile of junk in space that can break down, and it's just been beat to hell. But, you know, it's that kind of aesthetic. And of course, yeah, we had that Western looking town, Killa. And so, yeah, no, I think that's a good point. That kind of grungy, very, very, you can see humanity going that way,
Yeah.
like Firefly.
Exactly. But I think Bethesda probably did a good job with that decision to make it as diverse as possible, with all those different cities and planets and atmospheres. So I'm really looking forward to explore all of that. It sounds like a lot of fun.
See, it seems like they threw a pretty big net for modders. That's what I got from the direct myself, is it looked like they were trying to put their fingers into everything so that modders can expand it. That's what it felt like to me. Well, also the no vehicle thing kind of threw me through a loop, but a lot of it seemed like they had a little bit of it to kind of start it, or maybe they're planning on a DLC for it. Who knows? It definitely looked like they were hoping on modders for a lot of what's coming.
Yeah, definitely. I think, well, Starfield will be the new flagship in that regard. Like, Skyrim had a lot of success, and now, even almost 12 years later, people are still playing it. People are making mods for it. And I think Bethesda wants the same thing to happen for Starfield. And I can already see some similarities between Skyrim and Starfield. Like, you have those more lifelike planets, like I said, that they have a certain like Skyrim-like feeling, and you have space pirates, which are basically just the sci-fi version of bandits. You have different factions which are almost at war with each other again. From in one of the videos, like at the end of the Starfield reveal, they also showed like that the player might get some special magic abilities or something like that. A bit like the Dragonborn in Skyrim had a special ability that no one else had.
Makes me wonder if there's a planet full of dragons.
Well, that I actually hope that something like that will be in the game, because
You have to kill their leader, Alduin.
No, but more related to like enemies who fly around. And I was a bit disappointed that we didn't see that many enemies that fly around in the gameplay footage that they've shown us. Like some flying robots, or like a small spaceship that you have to fight, or some flying creature, something like that. We didn't see much about that, so I hope that there will be at least be some of such creatures. I know that the dragon fights were not as fleshed out in Skyrim as they should have been, but I think in Starfield they wouldn't have that problem, because the player can simply shoot in the air to hit the enemy.
Right. You don't need
Um,
1,000 iron arrows to be launched to.
yeah, or wait for the dragon to land so that you can hit it with your hammer. So
You get homing missiles. So we talk about AI a bit. It's pretty crazy how fast it's developing these days, and creating tools in a way, and even AI art inside games. Have you messed around with AI at all for modding?
well, I've asked ChatGPT a few questions just to see how much it knows about modding. I was also trying to see if it could help me with a particular bug that is pretty annoying. Probably didn't notice it when you were playing Frost yourself. But there's a problem in the Fallout 4 engine. We don't know much about it. Some Russian mod authors apparently looked into it in, don't know, a few years ago. If you die in Fallout 4 and you load a save, what will happen in some cases is that every NPC in a certain area around you will despawn, as well as any projectiles and mines, and sometimes even items.
I did run into the mine one happening.
Yeah, we at first, when I've investigated this issue, I was not sure if this was intentional, like Bethesda adding a feature that, oh no, what if someone made a quick save right before they were dying? But now I'm pretty sure it's some kind of memory management bug, but ChatGPT didn't know either. I think it actually knew about the Russian mod authors a bit that wrote it into the Fallout 4 wiki, I think. So it was actually aware that this was like a thing, but it didn't know much more about it. That's one instance where I've used ChatGPT for this very specific thing, but it couldn't help me much more. And I think only Bethesda or someone with a lot of experience in analyzing memory of applications might be able to help out here.
Yeah, Papyrus is not that common. I mean, I think it'll be updated at some point where there'll be more information about it inside ChatGPT. But for now, yeah, it does a little interesting with the coding for Papyrus.
Yeah, it hallucinates a lot of stuff or confuses stuff. Like it, for example, thinks that keywords are just strings, so like just words in the code and not some kind of special reference. And yeah, it isn't really good for providing help regarding Papyrus programming. So if someone wants to get into that, don't use ChatGPT. That's it. It will do a lot of stuff wrong. It will look right at first, but it makes a lot of bad stuff that won't work.
So it's not quite in danger of taking your computer science job yet.
No, no, it won't. But coming back to the topic about using AI for as a mod author, I think there's a lot of potential. I mean, people are already using it, especially for adding new audio files to recreate some character's voice or something. But what I personally would like to see is an AI where you could put in textures like the skin texture of a feral ghoul and tell the AI add clown makeup to this texture, and then it will put out the texture with clown makeup positioned at the face of the feral ghoul.
That's a very specific.
Yes, it's very specific, but there would be a lot of potential, especially we are used in Bethesda games that different variations of enemies, like a feral ghoul that was like in Fallout 4, there are some glowing ones, or ones that look a bit more diseased, ones that look a bit more bright, a bit darker.
Mhm.
And imagine you have an AI where you can give it a texture and just say, okay, I want this to be more dangerous looking, a bit more darker, or add some scars to it, make it look like the skin is infected with some kind of disease. And this is certainly possible with AI. It's just a thing that nobody did yet. Yeah, that's something I want to see in the future, but it may be like 10 years away until someone actually does this.
I think the actual art part of it, maybe you could probably pull off. I think the hardest part of it is having third-party program that takes it out, plugs it in easily.
Yeah, I mean, the technology is there. It just needs someone who actually does it. And there are other applications as well. Like you could, for example, make entire texture overhauls just with AI. You could like give it all the textures from Starfield and say, okay, make them look like Borderlands, make them look a bit more like the textures in Borderlands, or make them look more cartoonish, something
Oh,
like
that'd be
that.
really good with shaders.
And
I think that could be pretty well
yeah,
implemented because it already is running in the background through its filter. If it can just attach to a chat GPT of like changing the toggles, yeah, you could probably do that. Give me the reshade of Borderlands and have that outline everywhere.
yeah. So there's a lot of potential, and I think especially as a mod author, you often have the problem that you want to add something like new textures for a very specific thing, but you don't have much experience with texture. So what you do is go around to different Discord servers and ask, hey, does someone want to help me? And then no one replies. Or someone replies and says, yeah, I want to help you, but I don't have much experience either. Or someone will help you, but they will do it for like 2 weeks and then they lose interest or something like that. And I think with AI tools, mod authors don't have this problem or won't have this problem anymore in the future. That will also help mod authors to create more content and more content faster.
Yeah, relying on kind of other people's is a difficult thing in such a, because it's free work.
Exactly. Yeah, and not every team is as like well organized like the team behind Sim Settlements 2 or other big projects. I will definitely have this problem as soon as the Starfield modding tools will come out, because for the Starfield survival simulator, if you will, that I have plans for, I also want to give it a more horror feeling, like add more scary stuff to it, some cosmic horror, make it really a strange experience, make it a scary experience sometimes. And you can only really do that if you add some custom textures and models, but that's outside of my set of skills.
True, but you could do an Alan Wake type thing where it's like in the shadows. There is a way where you don't have to show the Cthulhu type beast right in front of you.
Yeah, certainly. There are always options, but it's a lot easier if you actually can add new stuff that isn't used or present in the vanilla game, to add something new, something visually new to the game, to surprise the user, the player, to make things more interesting and provide a different atmosphere to it.
Yeah, Dead Space kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So if I want to go some like, I don't know, space zombies kind of route, I probably won't be able to do that with just the vanilla assets, because I very much doubt that there will be space zombies in Starfield.
Maybe a DLC, the Space Zombie DLC.
Well, I mean, we have those religions in Starfield.
That's true.
Maybe Bethesda will add some like cultish space zombies, like some
Radiation
cult.
cult. Ah.
Yeah, maybe we will encounter feral ghouls in Starfield.
I hope they don't look like they do in Fallout. They look crazy in Fallout. Like they don't even look like they were a human once.
I think they should have stick to the old designs for the ghouls, even especially to make it more scary. I think one flaw that Fallout 4 had was there aren't really any human mutants. They're like feral ghouls and super mutants. And that was it. And meanwhile, in Fallout 3 or in Fallout New Vegas, you had, I think in Fallout 3, you had those Progs, they were called, like those mutated humans who crawled on the ground and were very feral. In New Vegas, you had like those corpses which were infected by a mutated fungus. Yeah, so I think Fallout 4 could have used a bit more like scary mutant that was once a human or something like that.
Can't remember the name of the mod. There is a mod though that has a bunch of different types of like bloaters, crawlers, sprinters, and different types of ghouls that I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I hope that Bethesda does some kind of inhuman human NPC in Starfield, but I'm not sure that they will do it, because it would be interesting to like find an abandoned ship in space and then get onto it, really board it with your spaceship, and then you will encounter a zombified crew of the ship, something like that. That would actually be nice to make things a bit more serious. And
It definitely looks more serious in this Starfield, how it's presented, that it has that possibility.
yeah, but we will see, I guess. Maybe we mod authors have to add something like that.
Oh, I'm sure we do. You were talking a little bit about this, but are you working with other mod authors kind of in a preparation or just kind of an idea of some ideas together to create like a version of Frost when Starfield comes out? Do you have like mod collection ideas in mind?
Not really at the moment. I have a few people who will be there to support me in some way, but those people don't have much modding skills. Like they will probably modding can be a very exhausting process, and often you have to also manage some Discord server or something like that. So I definitely have some people who will help me out with that, especially because I don't know how many mod users you've encountered that were a bit unfriendly, but I've encountered quite a few of them, and that's sometimes very exhausting. But regarding to actual developers, I don't have many people who can currently help me. I have a few that are interested and will probably help me out, but a lot of the heavy lifting for overhauling the game will fall onto me and Norgrim, probably. And regarding like working together with people who make collections or mod packs like Nexus collections or the Wobberjack, I have one person that I will probably cooperate if they will do Starfield stuff as well, and that's Screaming Lake. That's the guy who made the Stay Frosty Wobberjack. So if he has plans for Starfield, then I will definitely cooperate with him to offer some mod pack with like 150 mods or something that people can download. But I probably won't cooperate with people who do Nexus collections, because in my experience, there are a lot of people who don't know what they're doing at all, and they are uploading Nexus collections. And in the case of Frost, we had a lot of them. People who just uploaded a random Nexus collection, and days later, I've got a lot of bug reports, and not because Frost had some bugs, but because people uploaded completely broken Nexus collections with a lot of mod conflicts. And that happened a lot, and we had a lot of problems with that. So to the point where I just said I don't want to cooperate with those people at all, because they don't know what they are doing. There are certainly people who know what they're doing with Nexus collections, but there are also many, many more who just throw together a lot of mods, upload them to the Nexus, and yeah, I've also tried to contact those people and say, hey, you did this wrong, here's a way to fix it, here's some resources that help you to check for conflicts, or some general rules about making mod packs, something like that. And I just got ignored, or people said, no, I won't do that. And it was really strange, really exhausting. I've wasted a lot of time with those people, and it was a bit sad that I had those experiences.
That's, early modding, when people started learning they were breaking other people's mods and it was like ruining people's saves. There was a lot of back pressure that modders got. So modders tend to be way more careful about what they affect inside the CK what their mod does.
Yeah.
I think it's just going to be time before mod collections and those people kind of get weeded out, just like the beginning of modding, where you're going to have a handful of collections that are really the ones you go to, the people who patch it themselves, the people that maintain their Discord, the people that are currently putting the effort in. I mean, on Skyrim, I can literally say like maybe 4 or 5 different collection packs that are like seriously patched well, and they have a like a really strong presence that you can go and ask them, and they'll have answers already set. I just think it more time and more pressure, more people just ignoring those kind of collections once they start knowing that they're just people sending up broken mod list. So they're going to get enough flack where they'll just stop doing it.
Yeah, well, I hope, yeah, I think that will also happen at some point. But currently, mod users are often not able to actually spot that something is wrong or is broken, because you can say about the creation engine what you want, but it's very good at keep on running when things go wrong. Like behind the scenes, Bethesda, especially in Fallout 4, made it really robust against failure and problems. So if something breaks completely, most users won't even notice it. Like some script going haywire in the background, the engine just catches the problem, writes some error log or something, but the game won't crash in most cases, and the problem will only become apparent much later because there might be some slow save file corruption going on in the background, and the mod user isn't noticing that.
Just taking more and more memory as you go.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I mean, when Starfield comes out, we will also have a lot of problems with new people getting into modding, which is a good thing. But there will be a lot of broken mods, or we as mod authors have to actually figure out stuff, because the documentation of the creation kit, at least for Skyrim and Fallout 4, wasn't very good sometimes. So a lot of mod authors had to do a lot of work to actually figure out how certain things work and what the best approach is, especially when it comes to pre-combines in Fallout 4. There was a lot of research and work going into that from talented mod authors to figure out how to deal with that stuff, because Bethesda didn't really add this much information for us mod authors. The creation kit didn't even warn you if you accidentally broke pre-combines, which causes a lot of FPS problems. It just lets you break it and doesn't even let a pop-up appear which says, hey, you probably just broke pre-combines. You shouldn't do that unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah, like Diamond City, I've used as a reference. You know, that's just not a place where a lot of people want or should mod.
Yeah, and I think some more guides, some more information, especially directly in the creation kit, would be very good for the modding scene. But I don't think that Bethesda will do that.
I have hopes. I have hopes for that one, just because they, this leads to the next question, the mod marketplace. Thinking if they're really going to go hard on their version of Creation Kit again, I mean, Creation Club, that they would probably want more information inside the CK, easier documentation to get modding quicker, because that would benefit their possible pay model. So on that, what do you think about paid mods?
I think in this particular instance that you've just described, some more tutorials inside the creation kit won't help, because I think those people who will actually make paid mods already have the experience and knowledge and don't need those tutorials. Generally, what I think about paid mods is that they are fine. They have a right to exist. Like mod authors have the right to earn money with the work that they put into mods. But what I would like to see is that Bethesda offers some kind of creation club discount for mod authors in some way or another, so that we can ensure that our mods don't conflict with creation club content and vice versa. Because I'm not going to spend like $200 or euros buying all this creation club content so that I know if those are compatible with my mods or not, because there will always be mod users who ask, is this mod compatible with mod X from the Creation Club? And the answer is just, I don't know, I don't have that mod, I can't help you out, which is a bit sad. And I hope that Bethesda maybe gives us some discount, or maybe adds a system where popular mod authors can apply to get Creation Club content for free, so that we can make sure that everything runs smoothly with less mod conflicts. But they probably won't do that.
Right, but I think as far as maybe a company that would, they've done pretty well from what I've heard. People who've done Creation Club content, that they're pretty good to them. So my thought is if it does help them and their bottom line to have these be compatible, there's a possibility. But Microsoft is also in the mix too, so you may be right.
Yeah, I mean, it would be enough if they could offer us mod authors a version that we can load into the creation kit or into Xedit, but not into the actual game, so that we can at least look at the Creation Club content directly in those tools and check for problems there. So something like that. If they don't want us to be able to play those Creation Club mods without paying for them, that's fine. But it would still be nice if we could actually check for conflicts or other problems.
Like a report or something that tells you these are the two assets that were changed that are conflicting with each other or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. Because especially if mod users make a bug report, you can't really figure out if it's a problem with Creation Club content or not. That's a bit. I think Bethesda would benefit from that, but like I said, they won't do that. And I'm not just saying that because I want free Creation Club content or something like that.
Oh, I know your angle. Well, it's the same thing with people who, are YouTube, really popular YouTube, streamers or producers and stuff. They want the same thing. They want a free subscription to YouTube. It's like they should, they absolutely should. I mean, they bring them money. Like, why wouldn't you eat the $13 or whatever a month for these people who bring in millions of views? Yeah.
Yeah, but I think especially the higher ups at Bethesda, like the guys with the suits and the money, they probably won't allow that, even if Todd Howard personally would approve of gifting Creation Club mods to popular mod authors or something like that. I also hope that those people with the money at Xbox and Bethesda don't do some weird decisions that will make Starfield a bit less enjoyable, because I think they actually, I have no proof of that, but I think that those people might be responsible for some bad decisions that were made in Fallout 4.
You're probably right.
Yeah, one very particular thing is what I very much disliked in Fallout 4 was the fact that during the first 2 hours of gameplay, you get like 2 settlements, you get a minigun, you get 2 companions,
Power suit,
you
armor.
get a freaking power armor, you get a lot of ammo and some guns, and you kill a death claw. And I totally can see some guy in a suit telling the developers to do that so that the game feels more fancy at the start and that people enjoy it more, and that the reviews about the game will be better, something like that.
The hook, yeah.
And I hope that in Starfield they don't give you like whatever the equivalent to a power armor and minigun is right away. I hope that they give you less stuff at the start so that you have to actually earn it in the game, because I think that's much more fun than like right away killing a Deathclaw, getting a power armor and a minigun. I remember when I played Fallout 3, I struggled much more with actually getting proper supplies in that game, because you left the vault, you had like a bit of vault equipment and a 10mm pistol, and that was it. everything else had to be earned.
Yeah, you're at the end of the world. Like it should
Yeah,
be a sense of survival, even if it's not survival mechanics. There should be that feeling like I gotta get shit on my own.
yeah, exactly. And Fallout 4 very much failed at that because they just threw all things at you right away.
Yep. Power armor was meaningless by the middle of that game. I never even used it. I didn't need it. I was just overpowered anyway.
Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Starfield will probably have the same issues regarding to game balancing. They already said, Todd Howard said in an interview that Starfield will be easy because they want to reach a larger target audience. And I think that's fine. But I think that for a lot of players, it will be a bit too easy sometimes. Yeah, and we mod authors will fix that problem. I think that's we did that for Fallout 4 and all the other games. We will do it for Starfield as well.
Yeah, I've talked about it many times, like Requiem and stuff, where they're not total overhauls, but the mechanics are overhauled. It just really makes Bethesda games feel and packed food matters because
Yeah,
stamina regens that way. It just really shows all that work you've put into the food and all this other items that you've made in the game be useful. You know, like food was just a weight by me playing as Skyrim in vanilla. It's just weight. I don't
yeah,
need it.
exactly. And mods like Requiem or Enderal did that quite well. That they gave food an actual purpose, and Bethesda just could do that as well. It doesn't make the game much harder to tell the player, oh, you have to eat some food from time to time to, I don't know, get some additional HP regeneration or something like that. But well, especially because in the Starfield reveal, they talked a lot about food and showed it, and I was like, oh, that's very nice, but I know it's probably useless anyways.
Yeah, it just said like
Um,
15 health. Like there was no benefit. It just said health.
yeah,
And I noticed it was like a med kit was like 27 health, and then like a falafel wrap was like 17. I was like, God damn, that's a strong falafel.
well, it's quite a meme in Skyrim that player characters eat a lot of food mid-fight, gain HP, and they stand there in the fight and eat like 20 cheese wheels or something. And I think the same might happen in Starfield as well. And it's always a bit silly.
Yeah. That's why I like that idea of soft death. Because that's the thing. You just run in there, guns blazing, shoving potions in your mouth, and if you die, you just reload. Like, there's no consequence. There's no sense of like, oh, any of it matters. You just going insane, John Wicking the whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous sometimes when you think about it objectively. All right, let's end on the fun, good question. If you can have any mod day one when Starfield drops, be it utility or just a fun thing you want, what would you choose?
So, funny thing, you've sent me the
Hmm.
questions and I've wrote down some notes. And the notes for this particular question was, I want the game to be more difficult. So everything I've just said to you is basically the answer to that question. If I have a mod at day one at Starfield, at the release of Starfield, I would want a mod that makes it a bit more difficult. Gives me less like health potions or whatever, and makes it a bit more challenging to get supplies and to actually make money a bit more meaningful. I think that's what they will probably do in Starfield, because in Fallout 4 and in Skyrim, money was nice, but you never really had to actually use it.
No, no.
You could go through the entire game and not spend an entire one gold coin anywhere.
Yeah, you just become a mogul carrying your own bank and buying property everywhere you go.
Yeah. And I think a lot of Skyrim players are loot goblins. They like still pick up every diamond and gold coin or something like that, only to put that stuff into some house or some barrel and never actually sell it.
I'm so guilty of that.
And I hope that the economy in Starfield will a bit more meaningful, that you actually have to spend money sometimes to progress. Because other games did that, like Enderal did it. You could only level up in Enderal properly when you spent money buying skill books. So you had you had a reason to get more money. And then Enderal also added some quests, like you can rob an entire bank, and it's such quests make much more fun if like the reward that you are getting is actually you have to actually use somewhere else.
And that goes hand in hand with survival. That's why I love survival elements, because they give you a reason to have like kind of a money sink. You know, you need fuel. You're gonna have to consistently, spend the money, and it helps if fuel and all these things that you can buy have benefits of being different types, different grades, more expensive. The economy is a huge one. I really like that. I would also kind of like to see like a galactic stock market.
Yeah. And I mean, Bethesda already said that there will be like smuggling missions. So I think that money will probably play a bigger role in Starfield, but I think it will not be strong enough, and that we mod authors have to adjust that a bit. And I also hope that there won't be any kind of easy exploit to gain a lot of XP or money, because in Fallout 4 you could like spam wooden posts in settlements to level up.
Yep.
And place like, I don't know, 100 water purifiers in Sanctuary and have infinite money. So I hope that Bethesda will be a bit more careful in Starfield and not allow such obvious exploits, because they are simply not fun.
Yeah.
And especially mod authors who want the game more difficult have to deal with that, because you then have to find a way to disable this so that the player actually still has a challenge in your mod with your mod, and not just use a vanilla exploit to get around it. Because people actually do that. There are people who are using those exploits because they can. They are not using console commands to cheat any items. They actually rather use exploits to do that.
Yeah, I think there's a whole YouTube series about that. Yeah, people love finding those. Yeah, I agree though. It's like, and that's the problem too. Once you know about that stuff, it's like it's hard to be your own guide. Like, don't do it, Shiloh. You're gonna ruin your whole playthrough if you do this. Money is useful right now. Afterwards, it's not. And it's funny thinking of like gameplay and what makes things interesting. Everybody's like, oh, I want these powers. I want to be this strong, and all that means nothing if there is no cost, some sort of cost, whether it's
exactly
food, energy, money. It's just that's what makes you feel powerful. If you don't have any of those stripes, it's meaningless. That's why billionaires are so screwed up.
Yeah. Yeah, they found the exploits in real life.
They found exploits in capitalism. They found the cheat codes.
Yeah, until they enter a crappy submarine, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting for them to glitch out. I want them to fall right through the earth. Well, thank you, Redawt. I appreciate your time. It was a great conversation. I'm looking forward to talking to you once we see Starfield and see all the good stuff and all the terrible things mod authors have got to fix.
I'm looking forward to that.
Hey, thank you guys so much for watching all the way through. It means a lot to me. And if you'd like to help out further, of course, you can always push that little thumbs up button. And if you're into this content, you can go ahead and subscribe. I appreciate it. And I think my new friend here, Doopy, appreciates it. He looks so special. And if you have any questions or mod authors you want to talk to, go ahead and leave it down below. I'm going to leave the Discord for Frost. He is also coming up with ideas for Starfield when it releases, of survival mechanics and things that he can mod into the game. So join up and throw out your suggestions. Also, my Discord will be down there as well. As always, guys, stay safe and mod reckless.